Welcome to Supersize versus Superskinny. Experts calculate that by 2050, obesity and its related illnesses will cost the UK £50 billion a year. But in America, the problem's even worse and gives us a stark insight into what our future might be. Here in McAllen, Texas, America's fattest city, Dr. Christian's visiting the Doctors' Hospital, where they have a bariatrics department specialising in the treatment of obesity-related illnesses, including diabetes, heart failure and poor circulation.
So you're a bariatric surgeon here in the hospital?
Correct. Yes.
Has your job got busier over the years?
Yes, it has.
How much so?
Probably roughly doubled over the last couple of years.
In severe cases of obesity, the body's normal healing systems often fail, so even the smallest injury, such as a cut, can develop horrific complications. Dr. Noel Oliveira is an expert in this area.
Being a wound care center, we do treat non-healing wounds, not your little scrape or bump or abrasion, but wounds that have become complicated one way or another. And in this case, it was a multimicrobial infection. Multiple bacteria infected this.
So this chap was obese, developed diabetes, developed circulatory problems in his leg, got an infection and an ulcer at some point, and it turned into this condition, right?
Correct.
So can we go and have a chat with some of your patients and see the sorts of things that you have to fight every day?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's
go. Thank you.
Dr. Oliveira's patients suffer from the kind of obesity conditions that are on the rise here in the UK. First on the round is Eva.
Hi, I'm Christian.
She has diabetic gangrene, has lost several toes and faces losing her leg.
Sometimes it does hurt.
Right, sometimes it does.
Eva's blind and has multiple organ failure due to diabetes, which was made worse by a poor diet when she was younger.
If I could go back in time when I was younger and take care of myself a little different, I would.
Well, you look great. You really do. You look really good. The wounds are coming along
Thanks
great.
to you.
Well,
Next up is David,
Hi, I'm Christian.
who's suffering the severe effects of type 2 diabetes.
You're here for some treatment for your foot. What happened to it?
I had a little accident with one of those big doors, and I hit it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me about 6 weeks to get to the doctor and get it fixed. And they said it's got to be amputated.
Were you carrying a lot more weight than you are now?
Probably at the time I wasn't too much aware of it. I was just eating up and not taking care of myself.
And your other leg as well, you've had that?
11 years.
There's not much left of that one, is there?
No, they cut out all the toes.
34-year-old Walter has such bad circulatory problems that wounds on his legs aren't healing properly. At one stage, the doctors warned him that without losing weight, he was at risk of having both legs amputated.
How big were you at your biggest?
I've actually lost 200 pounds.
Wow, that's really good. Well done.
I think I was like 520, 530, something.
Well, as you know, the more you can keep your good diet up, the more weight you can keep coming off, the better your symptoms will be and the less likely you will be to run into problems in the future. So I hope you keep it up, Walter. Thank you very much for letting me talk to you. All right, pleasure. Bye-bye. It's incredible to see the severity of some of the wounds they deal with here at the centre, and even more incredible when you think that so many of them are lifestyle related. Nearly all the patients here are either overweight or obese, and they all say that if they could go back and do things differently, then they would. But will this warning be enough for us back in the UK?
Anxious to stop us making the same mistakes as America, Dr. Christian has gathered 8 Supersizers and 8 Superskinnies for a mass weigh-in. By putting them in pairs, he's going to force each of them to confront their dietary issues by swapping meals for 2 intense days in his feeding clinic.
Right, Joe, come on out. So, Joe, for your diet swap, I'm going to pair you with Ross.
Yeah. Hi, Ross. Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Wow, what do you eat?
Quite a lot of stuff, obviously, compared to you.
Yeah.
I feel like I could break you. Look at that. It's so
Possibly,
skinny.
possibly.
Oh my God. What do you eat?
I usually eat pasta every day.
Pasta every day. I
Pasta
like
every
pasta.
day.
Yeah. Do you eat breakfast?
That's my downfall. I don't eat any breakfast at all.
I'm going to eat breakfast because I eat breakfast.
Oh my God. I feel Joe isn't going to cope with my diet. The fact that I don't eat breakfast and some days I don't eat up until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, her emotions are going to be flying everywhere.
God, they're really, really skinny. And I mean, when I first saw my diet swap partner Ross, he was shivering and I thought, bless him, he needs to get some fat on.
Jo loves her food and she loves her big portions, often going for seconds, whereas Ross would rather have chocolate over a meal. I'm hoping that by bringing them together, they'll work out a more healthy middle ground.
41-year-old food addict Joanne Ledley from Essex is a supersizer who's thrown the portion size rulebook out of the window.
I love food. I like to see a big plate of food in front of me and I think yum yum. That makes me feel happy, it makes me feel good. And I always do big portions, and I've always done big portions.
Size certainly matters when it comes to dinner in the Ledley household.
I make dinner maybe for 5 people, and there's only 3 of us here. And what normally happens is I normally go back for seconds.
And often thirds.
Naughty me.
But at 21 stone, Jo's main problem isn't just her main meals.
I do snack a lot. My most favourite thing in the world is crisps and dip. I really like cheese. I like to eat sausage rolls, Scotch eggs. I do like burgers, and I do eat sometimes and try and cover it up. Because at the end of the day, I don't want everyone to become a pig.
Being mum to 8-year-old Oliver, Jo's biggest fear is what lies ahead for her and her son.
I'd like to sort of run around and kick a ball with him. You know, I can't do that now. I get out of breath, hot and sweaty. Come on, Mum. This is probably the last chance, really, for me to get myself sorted out. All right, sweetheart, how are you getting on your homework? Good.
Oliver is a big motivation for this because she feels that the time she's got is going to be shortened drastically if she doesn't do something.
Yes, indeed.
Jo's weight is already causing her problems, including osteoarthritis, asthma and high blood pressure.
My doctor has told me that if I carry on the way I'm going to end up dying young, not being around for my son. Sorry. And I just need to do it for me and for him, really.
Whilst Supersize Jo always makes time for food, by contrast, super skinny 23-year-old telecoms engineer Ross Clark from Cardiff reckons he simply doesn't have time to eat.
I'm incredibly busy at work during a normal day, carrying my tools, carrying ladders in and out of houses, climbing poles. My phone is probably constantly going, and the last thing I've got on my mind is food.
Which might be part of the reason 6-foot Ross only weighs 8 stone 11.
I can sometimes not eat until between 12 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
But when Ross does squeeze in the time to eat, there's one thing in particular that keeps him going.
I love chocolates. When I'm feeling hungry, chocolate is up there with the best.
Chocolate will only get you so far, though, as Ross discovers daily.
A normal working day now, I'm exhausted by, say, 2, 3 o'clock. By the time I get home, I'm falling asleep on the sofa.
Ross is a 23-year-old, and really he's got an energy of a 50-year-old, which is worrying, really.
No surprise, then, that Ross can't really be bothered in the kitchen.
I'd usually eat pasta and pasta sauce a minimum of 4 times a week.
And even when Ross takes girlfriend Olivia out for dinner, he's hardly the dream date.
I'm not overly excited with going out for food, but I have to do it, don't I?
Sure you don't want to try some, Ross?
No.
But Ross does have a reason for his lack of interest in food.
I only ever eat when I'm hungry, whereas if I was to eat when I'm not feeling hungry, food makes me feel sick.
In fact, if Ross had his way, he wouldn't eat at all.
I would prefer to have a feeding tube if it allowed me to put on weight. With a feeding tube, there's no need for chewing and eating and all that malarkey.
Feeding tube or not, Ross knows he needs to make changes to his diet before it's too late.
I know I'm too thin. Obviously, other boys have got their muscles hanging out, whereas I've got no muscles. I probably want to put on at least 3 stone. I can't go on at the moment at the weight I am because I'm just going to crumble.
Before Ross and Joe arrive at the feeding clinic for 2 days' intensive treatment, Dr. Christian's sending Joe to the American South to meet someone whose extreme diet and terrible health problems could be just the wake-up call she needs.
Bit apprehensive, you know, a little bit worrying, but can't wait to be a new me. So wish me luck.
Waiting for Joe in Georgia is her supersized American host.
My name is Nancy Shivers. I'm 30 years old, and I'm 38 stone. I think about food mostly all night, because I stay up all night, you know. Snacking on this, snacking on that, junk food.
21-stone Joe is on her way to Georgia for a glimpse of what life could be like if she doesn't cut down on the big portions. Joe's biggest fear is dying young and not seeing her son grow up, a concern 38-stone mother of 2, Nancy Shivers, knows all about.
My biggest fear is losing my children. Like, you get to the point that I can't take care of them, and they take them from me. That's my biggest fear.
Virtually housebound because of her size, Nancy has to rely heavily on her 11-year-old daughter to help run the home.
It made me feel real bad because I feel like I have failed them both.
After an 18-hour journey, Joe finally arrives at Nancy's.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Nancy.
Hi, I'm Joe.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
All right.
Yeah, didn't know what to expect, you know. So
I know. How was your trip?
it was, yeah, it was okay. Thank you. Yeah, it was long.
Yes, I've never been on a plane. I've been, be like this all my life,
Yeah.
It started when I was a kid. My mom cooking good soul food. When she cooked big.
I'm a bit of a grazer, really. I tend to sort of like eat a lot during the day, and also I do like my big portions. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 30 years old.
You're 30 years old?
Yeah.
Really? I'm 11 years older than you. I'm 41. I was just sort of shocked. Didn't know what to say, really. I didn't realise that she was only 30 years old. She was much larger than me. And that's really, really, really sad.
Nancy's weight has had a major impact on her health, and she suffers from severe shortness of breath, sleep apnea, osteoarthritis, high blood pressure, and pulmonary hypertension. All of which means she rarely goes out anymore. But today she's making a special exception by taking Joe with her to do the weekly shop.
Gotta get potatoes. I love homemade fries. So.
Within minutes of arriving, though, Nancy's struggling.
You right?
Yeah, I gotta take me a break. I can't stand up too long in shortness of breath. I gotta have hot dogs.
Joe loves her big portions, but even she's surprised by how much Nancy's piling into her trolley.
Back is killing me.
After a while, the sheer exertion of walking around the supermarket proves too much for Nancy, and she's forced to go back to the car, leaving Joe to finish off the shopping.
If I was in Nancy's situation and I couldn't go out, well, what's the point of life?
Having seen the damage the enormous food shops have done to her health, Joe's about to witness the emotional impact Nancy's obesity has had.
My daughter's 11, my son is 3. But it hurts when I can't do for them. It hurts.
With her own son Oliver Joe's biggest motivation for weight loss, Nancy's story really hits home.
I need help, it's bad. I'm at a limit right now that I need help. Sorry. It's okay. I'm trying to do all I can to put a smile on their face, but I can't go and take them to no movies.
I can totally know where you're coming from.
I don't want to embarrass them as much as I already am. And I feel real bad. I failed them as a mother.
She finds it so hard with everything, and I can understand that. I can sort of relate to it, about the family side. She can't play with her kids, and she loves her kids just like I love my son.
Unbeknownst to Joe and Nancy, on the other side of town, Dr. Christian is preparing for his surprise visit.
Joe and Nancy have a number of things in common. They both have young children who they're finding it increasingly difficult to play with because of their size. And they both seem to be pretty addicted to food. Snacking is a big issue for both of them.
Back at Nancy's, her dad's fired up the barbecue. With their plates piled high, they tuck in, unaware that Dr. Christian's about to join them.
Ooh, that fatty part.
Oh, I love, don't I?
So, who forgot to invite me to the barbecue?
Oh
Hey?
my goodness!
Oh my goodness. And you're Nancy.
I'm Nancy.
You are covered in barbecue. Nice to meet you, Nancy.
Oh my goodness!
Surprise?
Yeah.
What are you tucking into there?
Into...
Whoa, a whole load of ribs.
Oh, they're absolutely wonderful.
Now, something that Jo always does, because this was the way she was brought up, is she always finishes her plate. Don't you? Yeah. You don't like to see food left over. What do you think of that, Nancy?
Just like I don't like wasting food. Even though I be full or whatever, I just got to finish everything. But I don't want to leave nothing on my plate.
Yeah.
To find out more about where Nancy's gone wrong with her diet, Dr. Christian heads indoors.
I have to say, looking around this kitchen, and there's a huge... Are you stocking up because you've heard there's a war coming? Or a hurricane or something? I mean, there's masses and masses and masses of sausages. Do you know what's in these? Do you care?
I do now.
You do now. Really, really, really high in fat and salt. The problem with these sorts of processed foods is you have no control over what's in them.
Dr. Christian's keen to find out if meeting Nancy has had the desired effect on Jo.
So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on Nancy.
I couldn't believe how big she is for being only 30, but she literally does not stop eating because she loves food. I thought I loved food. You know, I mean, I know with my situation, I don't like it the way I can't run around with Oliver, but she can't do anything.
But what I want you to bear in mind now is the fact that it will only get worse if you don't make changes now. At the rate that you're eating, you will only be putting more and more weight on.
Yeah, I know.
Use Nancy as an example. Remember her. You know, she sort of opened her life out to you.
Yeah, definitely.
So make use of it.
Dr. Christian heads off, leaving Jo to say goodbye.
Take care. Meeting Nancy has definitely given me a wake-up call. What's really hit home is if you carry on eating, then I could end up being that size. And she's got even more problems than what I've got, and I've got enough problems and I don't really want any more.
Jo's back in the UK and about to check into the feeding clinic. Joining her is super skinny food avoider Ross. Before they get started on their 2-day meal swap, Dr. Christian wants to see them both, starting with 8 stone 11 Ross, who can barely get through the day without nodding off.
How are you feeling?
A bit nervous, yes.
What are you nervous about?
The amount of food that I'm going to have to eat.
Well, I can see why that might worry you, because you don't eat a lot, do you, looking at your food diary? In fact, you get through, on average, about 1,500 calories a day. If I tell you that a sort of 4 to 6-year-old boy needs about 1,700 calories a day, you are eating less than a 4-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a shock.
You are running on empty. The only way your body can cope with that for survival is to shut itself down. That means whenever there's a chance, it sends you off to sleep.
Unlike Ross, Supersizer Jo is not running on empty. More than 10 stone overweight, she has a growing list of medical complaints.
What pills are you taking at the moment?
2 lots of blood pressure pills and a water tablet, and I'm asthmatic as well, and I take painkillers for my knees, and I have been told obviously that I am borderline diabetic, so...
Yeah, your blood sugars haven't been very good in the test that we've done with you, and we sent you off for some further testing, a glucose tolerance test, which has come back essentially positive to show that you do have a problem regulating blood glucose. But what I can tell you is if you lose the weight, blood sugars will normalise.
If I carry on the way I'm going, I will end up like Nancy, and I just don't want to do that.
It's time for the 2-day diet swap, and for breakfast skipper Ross, it's Jo's staple morning plateful. 2 poached eggs and 3 slices of buttered toast. For calorie-guzzling Jo, who lives in perpetual fear of a rumbling tummy, nothing. Not even a cuppa.
No breakfast at all?
Nothing at all.
Can't believe I've got nothing. Gonna be starving.
Yeah, I never have anything like this for breakfast.
Do you not? Never?
Never.
Never.
Do you not have any sauce with this?
No.
No?
Whilst Jo makes do with a hearty glass of water, Ross is already struggling.
Nice?
Not really. It actually makes me feel physically sick.
Does it? You really are struggling, aren't you?
But Ross is determined to get through, and in the end does surprisingly well with Jo's breakfast by wolfing down 2 pieces of toast and 1.5 eggs.
You're going to be stuffed today, and I'm going to be starving. No.
It was the texture and the feel of food while it was in my mouth. It was a bit of a challenge. It did make me feel a bit sick. I did heave once or twice.
Bit concerned and daunted about what's going to happen for me, but you know what, I've got to crack on. It's a challenge for me, and I've really got to do this.
As a constant grazer, Jo snacks throughout the day, and it's not long till she serves up a mid-morning treat for Ross. 3 breakfast bars, a packet of crisps and a nice cup of tea. But luckily for Jo, she's got something too. It's Ross's first food of the day. Chocolate.
Nice. Wouldn't have this for my first meal though.
No.
It's nice, huh?
Enjoy while it lasts.
For Ross, his morning snack often takes the place of breakfast and lunch, but for Jo, it's just a daily treat.
I'm having my morning snack because I feel that I'm hungry, but I'm probably not really hungry, and it's just
there.
It's just there, and it's food. And you think, oh, fancy something. Maybe it's a little bit of what you fancy.
One thing Ross always fancies is his beloved chocolate, something Dr. Christian wants to have a word about.
Ross, come on over here and have a look at a plate of something that I think you'll recognise quite well.
Yes, chocolate.
Eat quite a lot of chocolate, do you?
Daily.
Daily? Yes, in fact, chocolate makes up 25% of all calories that you get within a week.
Wow.
Ross consumes a staggering 16.5 kilograms of sugar. That's 11 teaspoons a day, just from the chocolate he eats. But Ross's favourite treat also has a very high fat content, demonstrated by this chocolate fountain with a difference.
This is not milk. This is fat. This is melted lard. And this represents the total amount of fat that you're getting in your diet just from the chocolate that you eat. This is 31 blocks of lard. This saturated type fat is the fat that we know raises your cholesterol and increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. You think skinny people don't have heart attacks? You're wrong, they do.
Nice.
So Ross's chocolate habit is doing him no favours, but it's not too late to change. For now, though, he has to contend with a supersize lunch, a large jacket potato with beans, cheese, tomato and cucumber, and a glass of Diet Cola.
And not forgetting, we have lots of salt.
And Ross serves up nothing for the second time today.
I can't believe you've got no lunch. I just don't know how you can live like that.
Despite having felt sick at breakfast, Ross rises to the lunchtime challenge.
And you look like you're really enjoying that, so that makes me feel even worse.
Sorry. While I was eating my lunch, I felt sorry for Jo not having anything to eat. But then again, that's what she's got to go through to understand that she eats far too much.
I do actually feel quite hungry. I'm getting a bit of a headache.
21 stone Jo and 8 stone 11 Ross are nearing the end of day 1 in the feeding clinic, which means it's dinner time, and Ross gets to enjoy a typically huge Jo portion of Chinese takeaway. Beef chow mein, lamb with ginger and spring onion, sweet and sour chicken Peking style, special fried rice, chicken balls, prawn crackers and sweet and sour sauce.
Oh, this looks so delicious. I so want this. How does that look?
Disgusting.
It does not.
So Ross is far from impressed, but Jo's not exactly wowed by her dinner either. A sausage, a bread roll and 2 small pork steaks.
There's nothing to that, is there?
No.
Having missed out on breakfast and lunch, Jo races through her mini meal. In contrast, Ross has barely made a dent in his great wall of Chinese food.
You're not doing very well, are you, there?
No.
Are you feeling full up?
No, I'm not feeling full.
No.
It's the texture of the food, and I know I have to chew it for longer. Because I've choked a few times on the steak, so one time I was dying. My girlfriend called an ambulance, so since that time I've probably chewed my food for much longer than it's needed, just to make sure that I'm not going to choke.
Ross is finally acknowledging a possible reason for his food aversion, but he's still struggling to get through his supersized takeaway.
Do you honestly think this is a normal portion size? Honestly?
For me, yeah, definitely.
For you? But for an average person?
It's a big portion size, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Do you reckon you're going to need to cut down on this size of food that you eat?
Ross's questioning is the wake-up call Jo needs.
So hard. God. Yeah. Sorry, I don't even know why I'm crying. I think it's just a bit of everything. I suppose not having any food and watching you eat all that and then you struggling. It's all right. It's not your fault.
You'll be fine. Give you a hug. Doing very well.
It's been a really emotional day. It's been hard.
Can we do this?
Realising obviously that I do eat too much and I do need to change to sort myself out.
So after just one day in the feeding clinic, both Ross and Joe have started to confront their issues with food. It's day 2 in the clinic and breakfast is served. For Ross, it's 2 poached eggs on 2 slices of toast, with 3 slices of cheese on the side and a mug of tea with 3 sweeteners, whilst for Joe, it's a very welcome BLT sandwich and a bar of chocolate with a glass of fruit juice.
I can't believe you eat this for breakfast. Compared to yesterday, it was lovely. But I did think, odd breakfast to have a sandwich. Sort of like, odd.
As for Ross, yesterday he managed 2/3 of his breakfast. Today, he's cleared his plate.
You've done really well. Can't believe you finished it. Better than yesterday?
Definitely. I surprised myself. So I kind of come to realise that maybe I can eat. I know I can eat, but maybe I come to realise that I haven't been eating enough lately.
It's a breakthrough moment for Ross, but learning the importance of eating properly is not always straightforward. Emma Wolfe is a journalist and a former sufferer of anorexia. She knows only too well how grave eating disorders can be. Across this series, Emma is investigating the very latest on eating disorders, meeting sufferers and experts on a wide range of conditions. A recent cutting-edge study reveals that there might be a physical difference in the brain of anorexics, which can cause the eating disorder to develop. The expert behind the study states that this genetic research may indicate a family connection and could revolutionise the way we perceive and treat eating disorders.
It's a really interesting question, this, about anorexia and families and whether or not eating disorders do run in families. I was thinking about my own family, actually, and Virginia Woolf, my great-aunt. There's some indications in her letters and diaries that I've read that she had issues with food and with eating and with her weight. And it's really interesting, and I don't know whether there's a direct link.
To explore these ideas further, Emma is going to meet Marianne, a recovered anorexic whose mother died of complications due to anorexia.
I think I got an eating disorder because at the time my mum was suffering from an eating disorder. She'd been suffering from her early teens and it was something that was with her until she died. My mum's illness affected my life massively because basically from about the age of 8 I was responsible for her. I was doing an adult's job at 8 years old because of what she was suffering from. I was about 12 years old when I became anorexic. My lowest weight was between 5 and 6 stone. In regards to my eating disorder, I think it was influenced by the environment I grew up in because of my mum's own suffering.
So Marianne, tell me a little bit about your mother.
She was a functioning anorexic for all her life. Watching somebody systematically abuse themselves for years on end is really distressing.
Marianne believes that she picked up many of her bad habits from her mother.
I think you can learn traits of behaviour. Watching my mum have an eating problem, she never used to eat with us, and then she'd be very touchy about food. It was a very sensitive subject. And I think if you're brought up in an environment where there's such a focus on what you consume and how you look, I think it definitely can mould you into being more susceptible to developing an eating disorder and having that vulnerability.
In 2009, Marianne's mum died of septicemia. Her emaciated body was too weak to fight an infection. She was 4 stone.
I've been solidly recovered for majority of 10 years. I had a psychologist and a psychiatrist at the time, and my GP. Got a good support system. I've got a fantastic husband, my in-laws are brilliant, and I've got really good friends, and they kind of keep me on the straight and narrow.
Marianne's story is really sad, and to watch your mother die of anorexia is just unimaginable. And also the fact that she lost her childhood and her adolescence to looking after her mother. I mean, she was a full-time carer. It's also really interesting the way we differ in our views on eating disorders. Marianne really does think it's something in her environment, and it's very much to do with her upbringing. I think it's something neurological, that there is something going on in the brain.
Emma's going to meet Professor Brian Lask, who believes he's discovered a change in the brain of anorexics.
It appears that there is an abnormality in the brain that makes people vulnerable to the development of anorexia. It doesn't necessarily create it, but it makes them vulnerable. In essence, there's a structure deep in the brain which acts like the central station of a railway network, so that all the important routes go through it. If you have anorexia nervosa, this particular structure appears not to be working properly. You look in the mirror and you see a fat person staring back at you. You're not fat, actually very skinny. And that's to do with the misperceptions which arise as a result of this abnormality. In well over 80% of our patients, we find this abnormality.
So what are the implications of your findings?
What we're looking at is how do we treat that abnormality? We need to know exactly what's gone wrong in the insula, what's going wrong with the chemical messengers there. So we're looking into that, and we're developing treatments for that now.
Meeting Professor Lask reinforces my own belief that there was actually something different going on in my brain when my anorexia was at its worst. What's clear is there's no one single reason for an eating disorder. The nature versus nurture debate will rumble on. The positive thing, though, is that we are moving in the right direction. The more research that's done in this field, the better and faster we can get treatment to those who need it.
If you think you or someone you know has an eating disorder, contact your GP or go to channel4.com/Supersize. Lunchtime in the feeding clinic. And although she loves big portions, Jo also loves to snack. And Ross's lunch today is a series of snacks. Toast, tea, crisps, a chocolate biscuit, cheesecake, and some squash.
I won't enjoy this.
No?
I won't be enjoying this.
He soon gets his own back, though, by serving up another portion of nothing.
You can't be hungry now, can you? Honestly.
I can't sit and watch you eat all that and not be hungry. It's my favourite.
Perturbed by the menu, Ross starts to question Jo's eating habits again.
Sometimes
Do you regret eating all you've eaten?
Do I regret
Yes.
eating?
Sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for instance, I like the feeling of feeling full, and feeling full makes me feel happy, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But really, deep down, it's not really making me feel happy, because obviously it's making me put weight on, so...
Yeah,
I need
it's just
to...
cycle. You need a break.
Yeah.
So with Ross's help, Jo's beginning to realise that her love of food really isn't doing her any favours. It's the Last Supper, and as Ross hands Jo his favourite, a pitiful pasta and tomato sauce, Jo offers up her biggest challenge yet, a carb-tastic, overflowing bowl of carbonara, with 3 slices of garlic bread.
Just the quantity of foods is just dramatic. Where do I start?
Jo wastes no time getting stuck in, but after 2 days of eating supersized portions, Ross is finding it tough.
It's just too much. I don't think I'm definitely not going to be able to finish it.
I'm finishing mine though, mate. Tell you.
Ross has done surprisingly well in the 2-day diet swap, eating a lot more than he normally would, but the carbonara is 1 supersized portion too far. He has learned some valuable lessons, though.
It has made me realise that I can eat more, even though with this portion, this is just like gigantic, and there was never a chance for me to finish that anyway. But the main factor is that if I don't fit in the time to eat the food, I'm never going to gain the weight. So I've realised that I have to make the time to eat the food.
And Jo's been getting the message too.
Looking at that now, I think, how could I eat that, all that? and not be so stuffed, you know. It's the way forward really for me now. I've got to really do this for me and my family and my health. I really want to do well. I've got it like fixed in my mind now, so.
So the meal swap is over. It's time for Dr. Christian to give Ross and Joe their personalised meal plans.
You have come to the end of your time in the feeding clinic. It is now the start of your journey, and this is where you go it alone, but not unaided, because these vital documents here contain your personalised diet plans for the next few months ahead.
Joe's plan drastically reduces her portion sizes and swaps fatty snacks for healthier options to cut her calorie intake by half to 2,000 calories a day. Ross's plan doubles his daily intake to 3,000 calories and calls for him to make time for meals and substitute his beloved chocolate for healthier snacks, such as nuts.
Well, it's been quite an eye-opening couple of days, really. I've learnt a lot about what I'm doing wrong. I think it's going to change my life, and I want it to change my life because at the end of the day, I don't want to be like this anymore.
The past few days have been very interesting. The first day, I was obviously in denial throughout the whole of the day. I did actually think that I ate enough food, whereas in actual fact, I hadn't been eating enough to get me through the day, so I'm going to follow the diet plan 100%. And hopefully that'll help me to gain some weight. Good luck, Joe.
Thank you.
No problem.
Joe. Take care.
You'll do us proud.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, enjoy.
Take it easy.
Joe and Ross will be back in 2 months' time to show Dr. Christian how they've got on without him. It's been 8 weeks since Meal Dodger Ross and Mega Portions Joe left the feeding clinic, and it's time to see if they've stuck to their healthy eating plans.
Feeling quite nervous about stepping on the scales, but I know that I've worked really hard, so I'm really hoping that I've done really well.
I'm pretty sure I gained a few pounds. Generally, I feel much better in myself now. As long as I gain 8 pounds, that'd be £1 a week. That'd be good.
So, Ross, tell me how things have been for you.
Since leaving the feeding clinic, I've made loads of changes. I've followed the diet plan to a T. Now I'm eating a lot of fish, meat, nuts. I'm no longer feeling tired after work. I'm eating the 3 meals a day as well as snacking in between.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
You never used to eat breakfast. So my concern was shoving breakfast in every day was going to be quite tough. Have you managed to keep that up and do it?
I'm still having like gagging reflexes, but I do it 99% of the time.
Good. And then the true love of your life, chocolate, which I had to give you quite a talking to about. Have you managed to cut that down?
I may have 1 or 2 pieces of dark chocolate a week.
Which is absolutely fine.
So I don't eat any processed chocolate at all.
Wow. So you did listen to what I said?
I did, yes.
I'm impressed. It's been a couple of months, hasn't it?
Yes.
And?
Things have been really good. It's been hard. It's not been an easy thing, but I just changed the way I look at food and the way I think about food now. My life doesn't revolve around food now.
Did your time in the feeding clinic sort of prepare you for that a bit?
Definitely. It shocked me more than anything to see, obviously, my partner's sort of struggling with it and thinking, did I really eat that much? It's quite frightening, really. I thought, well, I'm not going to go back there.
And then not only did you eat very big portion sizes, but you also used to go back for more. Have you controlled that a little bit better?
Yeah, definitely. And we don't cook as much food. We don't have enough to go back for seconds, so what we have on our plate is on our plate.
This is brilliant. Yeah.
Time for Joe and Ross to see each other again.
You're looking very well too.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I've tried really hard.
Your legs, your stomach, looking awesome.
It's been great, but I just can't believe it. You know, you look so different. You can see fat in your face and your arms, and look at them. Brilliant, absolutely.
All right, put him down.
He looks brilliant, doesn't he?
He does, he looks really good. And Ross, I'm going to start with you. What did you want to gain? In the dream world that you live in, what did you want to gain?
I wanted to gain at least 8 pounds, but ultimately I'd like to have gained a stone, but I don't think I've got that far.
8 pounds is quite a lot in 2 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
To be fair. And you haven't gained 8 pounds.
Oh.
You've gained more than a stone.
Oh, God.
Wow.
You've gained 1 stone, 1 pound.
Well, very good.
You.
Which is kind of amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm really pleased. I smashed my target. I'm pretty shocked, yeah.
I know eating breakfast is a chore, all right? But it's working wonders for you. And Joe, What about you then, eh?
I don't know.
To me, the final weight is less important than the changes that you manage to make to your lifestyle, to the diet, and to the way that you feel. And all of that has improved dramatically. But, nevertheless, you have lost weight.
Good.
You've lost 1 stone, 10 pounds.
No way!
You are just nudging up to the 2 stone mark, which is fantastic. 1 stone 10. Yep.
I can't believe that. 1 stone 10.
You have both completely nailed it, and I'm delighted for the two of you. Really well done.
This is a complete life change for me. I feel, that I've got a really good future ahead of me. I feel that, I'm going to be able to see Oliver grow up. I do think the future's good.
My lifestyle's completely changed. I'm feeling fitter and healthier. The hard work was definitely worth it, and I'm going to continue it onwards and upwards.
Next week in the feeding clinic, Supersize Julie and Superskinny Zoe face some shocking truths.
So, what's up? Tell me what's upsetting you.
Emma Wolf investigates the world of eating disorders in men.
I mean, I was already taking about 80 laxatives a day.
A day?
And Dr. Christian is back in the USA discovering the ultimate consequences of obesity.
I have read they're allowed to remove limbs to facilitate placing the body in the retort.
I mean, it's horrendous, isn't it?
Tomorrow night from 8, sorting out the style of the masses, another woman in a frenzy. Gok Wan has the tips she desperately needs. Now, next tonight, what happens when your ex runs the dating agency you are relying on to find new love? Awkward in the Undateables.